What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Locked On NFL Insider Report. I'm Daniela Bruce, joined by our NFL Insider, Isaiah. What happened? Oh, I thought you. I
No, nothing. Sorry.
thought he was just waving. My bad.
Sorry.
Oh,
You're good.
you can do that again this time. I'll know. Oh, I thought something
You're
happened.
straight.
All right, go
All right.
ahead.
I hit you with this.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Locked On NFL Insider Report. I'm Daniela Bruce alongside our NFL Insider, Isaiah Stanback. Isaiah, thank you for joining us. A great weekend of football. I should say a great Sunday of football for us to talk about.
Yeah, today's been crazy. AFC Championship, NFC Championship, everything's coming down to the wire. And shoot, we got a heck of a lot to talk about today in terms of this overtime win by the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody expected the Bengals to be going to the Super Bowl this season, but how incredible. And we'll look at that AFC Championship game. The Chiefs were up by 18 in the first half, and then the Bengals came back with 21 unanswered points. What happened to the Chiefs, I think, is the bigger question here.
That's a major question, and please believe me that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be asking that same question this entire offseason that starts absolutely today for them. This team, obviously the Cincinnati Bengals, I could stand here and say that I did not believe that they were going to be in this position to even be in the AFC Championship game, nevertheless be going to the Super Bowl. So I am still surprised as all get out that these guys are making it. But guess what? These guys have done exactly what they needed to do. They came in here and overtook the Kansas City Chiefs. As you mentioned, they went down 21-3 at one point in time early in that first half, and they somehow, some way found their way back into it. They snuck a touchdown in there right at the end of the half to put themselves back up. They'll be back down 21-10, and then from there on out, they flicked the switch at halftime. You mentioned Patrick Mahomes did a heck of a job. These guys seemed unstoppable in that first half, simply marching down the field, scoring at will, not obviously Cincinnati didn't seem like they had any answer for them to be able to stop them. But something happened there at the halftime point, and I think I know exactly what it was. Right at the end of the first half, when it was 21-10, the Kansas City Chiefs had a second and goal, and they were going down. I think it was 2 or 3 seconds left on the clock. They threw the ball out to Tyreek Hill on a swing route. They were stopped. They put no points on the board, no 3 points, no 6 or 7 points on the board going into the half. And that was the flick of the switch, not the flick of the wrist, but the flick of the switch. As they went into the halftime, they came out of that, and it was a totally different ball game from that point forward.
And it's such an interesting call from Andy Reid and the whole Chiefs staff, because when you have guys like Patrick Mahomes on your team and he's your quarterback, you want to have the confidence to have him get it in the end zone right before the end of the game. But yes, I agree. That was definitely a turning point in the game. On the other side of things, Joe Burrow and what he has been doing for Cincinnati in his second season, taking them to their first Super Bowl in over 30 years. So, I mean, just turning around the franchise, the city has to be so excited to have this guy at the helm of the Bengals.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at what he's overcome. I mean, this Cincinnati Bengals team has only won 6 games over the last 2 years prior to this season. Obviously, the 2 season win got themselves in a situation where they were able to draft Joe Burrow with the #1 overall pick, and then you follow that up with another very abysmal season, and they'll put them in a position to be out there and get their guy Jamar Chase. And I don't think that they're complaining at this point in time, because those two guys right there are obviously the leaders on the offensive side of the Bengals, but they've been the spark plug that this organization needs to now put them in this situation. Both of these guys are completely balling out. You look at Jamar Chase and what he was able to do today: 6 receptions for 54 yards. That was what he did today, but he was obviously making some big plays out there. He was able to obviously convert a lot of third downs. You look at T. Higgins stepped up. When everybody rolled the coverage over to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins was the man that stepped up, and he had over 100 yards receiving today. Joe Mixon, their ability to run the ball is taking a lot of pressure off of Joe Burrow and his ability to be able to march these guys down the field. These guys are just quietly and slowly just working their way into these situations, and now everybody's sitting back here shocked, trying to figure out how the heck did the Cincinnati Bengals go from the bottom of the league to that complete top of the league. Hey, they earned it.
So Joe Burrow also using his legs a bit in that game, especially towards the end. So we saw his game take that level too. And against the Kansas City Chiefs, again, I'm still wondering what happened to them, but outstanding from Joe Burrow.
Yeah, Joe Burrow obviously took care of business when opportunities presented themselves. Once they got into the second half, they just chipped their way down the field. Whether it was a touchdown, whether it was a field goal, they just took what they were given. On the flip side, the Cincinnati Bengals defense stepped up in a major way. These guys completely came out here and shut down this offense of Eric Bieniemy and the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes seemingly was trying to force feed everybody on the field. It was very much unlike it wasn't like Patrick Mahomes. It wasn't the Patrick Mahomes that we've seen. This was the Patrick Mahomes of the first 4 or 5 games of this season when their offensive line was trying to figure things out. When there's a lot of question marks in terms of whether they were going to be in this position to be in an AFC Championship game, he went back to some of those same traits, and it seemed like a lot of their offensive calls from Eric Bieniemy were really one-man routes. It seemed like there was big play or no play. And you saw there was a lot of opportunities where Kansas City had all the time in the world, sometimes 5, 6, 7 seconds when Patrick Mahomes was sitting back there patting the ball. And that's a testament to the Bengals defense, their secondary. These guys covered up all these big time receivers. They covered up Pringle, they covered up McKinnon, they covered up Tyreek Hill, they covered up Kelsey. And Patrick Mahomes had nowhere to go with the ball. And it gave this defensive front for Cincinnati all the time they needed to go back there and start putting pressure on Mahomes, making him uncomfortable in the form of Hubbard. He did a great job going out there. I think he had 2 sacks tonight. His comrade had 1.5 sacks, and they really made things difficult for these guys to push the ball down the field. Ultimately created some turnovers, and boom, now those guys are sitting at home. Cincinnati's going all the way.
I'm glad you brought up Cincinnati's defense because, of course, they came up with a stop in overtime, right? And after all of
Yeah.
the drama that surrounded the overtime situation with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills last weekend, you heard when Kansas City won the coin toss, Arrowhead erupted.
Yeah.
And for the Bengals to come out and make a stop and ultimately get their kicker in position, Evan McPherson, we've got to shout him out too, 4 for 4
Ooh.
in the last couple of games, the rookie kicker with all the confidence in the world. But yeah, their defense made that happen. They went out in overtime and stopped Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, no, Trey Hendrickson and Hubbard, those 2 guys right there, they were just on the tantrum. Those guys were in the backfield causing issues for Patrick Mahomes. If they weren't getting sacks on him, they were making him uncomfortable. Hey, just go back and watch the film. Patrick Mahomes was running around like the Tasmanian devil, just spinning around and sometimes just throwing errant throws up in the air. And you saw towards the end of the game right there, he tried to force feed Tyreek Hill once again. Ball got tipped up. Obviously, tips and overthrows got to get throws. That's the saying that we have in the NFL, and they were able to take advantage of that. Again, whenever they make mistakes, obviously the Cincinnati was right there to take full advantage of it and march down the field with full confidence with Mr. Cigar himself, Joe Burrow, and these guys are now ultimately won the ball game.
That's right. And they're headed to Super Bowl 56, where they will face off against Matt Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams. So 2 quarterbacks that have never been to the Super Bowl. It's going to be an exciting matchup. How do you think the Bengals take advantage of this and ultimately come away with a Super Bowl victory?
You know what? I'm proud. I'm elated that these guys have worked their way through this tough AFC playoff run. Obviously, they got past the Raiders, and they got past the Titans, and then they got past the Chiefs. Nobody saw that, but now they're going up against the Los Angeles Rams, and they're going to be in LA. So you don't have to worry about 49ers fans no more. I don't know how Cincinnati fans travel, but they're going to need to come and bring it in full effect because the LA Rams, as we mentioned before, these guys are they put all their chips into this year. These guys don't have any future picks. They're not going to be able to retain this roster. They have an all-star lineup on their offense and their defensive side of the ball. So it's going to be a lot for Cincinnati to handle. I'm sure they'll bring their A game, but I'm not sure if their A game is enough to handle all these superstars that these guys have, especially with 2 weeks off.
So you mentioned LA, all their chips are in the basket, right? They
Mhm.
definitely need to win right now. They're in win now mode. And I'm not saying that the Bengals don't want to win the Super Bowl because obviously they want to win. But is it as important for them to win right now, or do you think their window's a little bit bigger?
Oh, their window is ginormous. I mean, you look at the LA Rams, it's like Debo. Their window is just cracked, right? Just a little bit. You can peek in there and see that somebody's in the house. But the Cincinnati Bengals, yeah, their front door is wide open. They have all the time in the world. They have a young team right now. These 2 guys that are leading them on the offensive side of the ball are young. We're talking about first and second year players, so they have a lot of grace in terms of time to build things around Joe Burrow. They are just getting going over there in Ohio, so they will be in this position again in the future. So they should be proud of where they're at. Obviously, they want to do everything they can to win the ball game and try to walk away with a Lombardi trophy. But if they don't, nobody's going to look at them sideways. On the flip side, the Los Angeles Rams don't have that grace. These guys have a lot of high dollar individuals. You talk about Jalen Ramsey, you talk about Odell Beckham, you talk about Aaron Donald and Stafford. There's a whole, Cooper Kupp. There's a whole lot of guys that have to get paid. A lot of guys that are on that salary right now that are gonna be obviously hitting these guys hard against that cap next year. And it has to happen today. It has to happen now. These guys have 2 weeks to get ready to play the best game of their life, because after that, it's going to change whether they win or whether they lose.
Hey, but the Bengals are going to show up. We know that. They have done it throughout this entire
True.
playoff. So it's going to be a great one. Super Bowl 56 in a couple weeks. Really looking forward to it. Isaiah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And of course, thank you to all of you for tuning in to another NFL Insider Report. We'll see you next time.